Bene, abbiamo ora in linea il ministro Nat Cook, del Ministro per Human Services nel governo di South Australia. So thank you, Minister Cook, for taking this call from Radio Italia in Adelaide. And yes, maybe I'll just quickly, let's remind the listeners, what does human services mean, which is your portfolio?
Well, it covers quite a broad range of areas, but it is a lot of the social service type areas. So we do a lot of support for people around cost of living, those concessions payments. We support people through advocacy and programs around disability. We work with the National Disability Insurance Scheme federally with our other ministers to make sure we're doing the right thing and getting as best service as we can. We also do a whole range of supports for families and children, those families who need extra help in parenting and navigating the early years of children who might be challenging, or families that have got their own challenges as well. So we do a lot of that work. And also probably the other big ones that we do focus around housing, social housing, the public housing domain, and trying to help build supply through partnership with the federal government, and also that big investment that we've made ourselves with public housing. So it's quite diverse. There's a lot more to it, but it really is that social and human service type delivery.
Yeah, so it interacts with quite a few other portfolios. And one of the other items is to help homeless people. And every now and then when you've got bad weather, mostly in winter, but I guess in summer too, you must have some particular issues.
Yeah, definitely. So, our homeless service providers do get together during not just the cold but the hot, and to provide extra service to people who are sleeping rough and out on the street.
Yes. Now, the specific topic we have with you in this case is the fact that it's on the 30th of September is International Translation or Interpreters Day, about language services. And that is also part of your portfolio, is related to your portfolio.
Yeah, indeed. We run quite a busy interpreting and translation service. People might be surprised to hear that we do nearly 60,000 interpreting sessions in a year, and also nearly 1,000 other translation services across nearly 110 languages. So it really is quite diverse, extraordinary service delivered by our department. And most of the services are delivered through health. So as you can imagine, it's very important to get the information right when we're dealing with families who might be facing some difficult decisions and some complicated pathways to walk when it comes to a diagnosis or treatment. So getting that information done right with a professional interpreter in place is really important. Families can help at the bedside, and many people would be aware I was a nurse for 3 decades, and I can't tell you how many times you would rely on good family members to help with some interpreting. But when it comes to that more professional breakdown of information that's required, sometimes people are just a little bit too close, and getting an interpreter in who's able to be more objective in the situation is really valuable. So about 85 to 86% of the work is done through health. So, we've got a terrific service delivering lots and lots of individual interpreting sessions, but we need more. So we're doing a call out.
Yes. Okay. We'll come back to that. But you see, the need for the interpreting, I'll say my vested interest. I guess my brother is an interpreter, so I hear a lot about what happens and how the issues that come up. And sometimes someone say, "Oh, you understand? You don't need an interpreter." But especially in those very difficult health situations, it's hard enough with English as your native language to deal with the concepts and the stress involved. And we all know of people who actually don't really understand what's being told to them in their native language, English. So it is truly important. On the other hand, I know my brother says he gains energy from the people he meets, especially the elderly people. Yes. So you were saying that you're issuing a call. You need more interpreters.
Yes, absolutely. So we're putting a call out for people focusing on the key 5 languages, but of course happy to accept applications or expressions of interest from others as well. But the focus languages that where there's a shortage of trained interpreters is currently Greek, Italian, Spanish, Khmer and Nepali. So there is a targeted area which your listeners may be able to help us with. Obviously, there would be people out there listening that are already trained and have a certificate of qualification for interpreting. Those people would be obviously of keen interest for us. There are, I think it's TAFE that do about an 11-week course for interpreting and translating, but obviously we're keen to get people on board as quickly as we can. So those that are qualified first and others who are prepared to train second, but should still apply.
Okay, so languages are Greek, Italian, and that's the natural constituency of this radio, Spanish, Khmer, and Nepali. Which is interesting. I teach in some management courses, and I've seen a big increase in Nepalese students come to Adelaide just in the last year or so.
Yes. Yeah, and it is. Adelaide's becoming much more diverse. I think all the cities of Australia are as well. I was recently in Brisbane for an event and sat and had a meeting in the main shopping mall there. And as I was looking around, I just thought, wow, this is, you could be anywhere in the world when you were sitting there in the mall in Brisbane. Very different to what it was 10, 20 years ago. The same reflection when I've sat and people watched in Adelaide. It is, you could be anywhere in the world. It's a very diverse community, and I think it's a great community which will be much more tolerant and richer because of it. So, yeah, if people have got that interest in really helping people who need it at a time where it's quite difficult, interpreting and translating might be the future for them.
Yes, and we were just touching on something else. The multilingualism is an important way to get understanding of culture and development. And I was just very impressed. I noticed this morning that we've hired a person to come from Victoria to head the early childhood area of the education department. That's very promising because Victoria has a strong language policy and which has been very successful. And I and others have argued that we should try to have languages from the earlier stages of education.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. And on that, let's do a little segue on intercultural knowledge and understanding. I see in the background of your office lots of posters and badges to do with the referendum on the voice to Parliament. I know. Well, what is your view?
I strongly support a First Nations voice. It was a really simple request made through the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and that was to enshrine a voice to Parliament within the Constitution, as well as us giving acknowledgement and recognition of First Nations people within that Constitution. I've heard all the arguments coming for and against. I think the factual position is that this was a simple and decent request by Aboriginal people to allow a much better pathway for exchange and sharing of information with the leaders of the country and also the heads of departments as well, which is really, really important. So I support that process. I say to people, we have worked for decades together to try and make a difference for Aboriginal people in our community. I think while we have made some inroads, there is much more to be done. So having ISQ remaining the same is not acceptable. I take up the offer and the hand of friendship from Aboriginal people to vote yes to that voice. We have done that step in South Australia through a legislative mechanism to put a voice to Parliament within legislation, which will be continuing next year as a piece of work along with the remaining commitments of treaty and truth. But for now, the question is being asked for the federal parliament. And for that, I encourage people to simply agree with the simple request that we put that into the Constitution as a voice to Parliament. It doesn't bind anyone to any extra money or anything else, but a pathway towards reconciliation and improved circumstances for people in our Aboriginal communities.
Yes. Well, by the time this interview goes to air, we will have had a conversation with the gentleman from the Australian Electoral Commission, and they very generously made someone available to speak in Italian, so they'll explain also how to vote,
Right.
which is in the referendum, I think is a lot simpler than in other elections. So just one more question, that why should migrants or migrant communities vote for the voice? Why then give a special forum to a particular community?
I would think that migrant communities and certainly the migrant communities that I've spoken with, and I've spoken also to some of the peak groups, such as people from Wheka, it's a good, decent pathway to get that strong voice through for people who have trouble communicating the needs or the wishes in another form. And I think migrant communities probably understand that more than any. When you come from a position of marginalisation because of a barrier that's in place, and in the case of a migrant community, it may be a language barrier, and also the acknowledgement that that language barrier exists for Aboriginal communities as well. There's dozens of languages, remember, coming out of Aboriginal communities. And to flick back to the translating service, we launched our Aboriginal translating service last year, which is incredibly important as well. So I think, I think the multicultural communities that I've spoken with, they understand it. The ones I'm speaking with at train stations as they head off into work smile and say, we're voting yes. There is quite a large yes vote coming through strongly to me in my conversations, and I'd encourage people listening here to take that into consideration. The barriers that are in place can be broken down through the voice.
Yes, well, in fact, the strongest correlations with yes that I've seen in the polls are for the age, like the younger groups, and people who speak languages other than English at home. So
I agree.
Becomes that. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Minister, for coming on to this program again. And
it's been too long. It's been too long. Let's have another chat very soon.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.